Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday, Sretan Patak. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, answer 5 questions from people who have sent them in on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, expatinCroatia.com, my emails, my consulting sessions, our team, and people who make them into a little paper airplane and shoot them through my window. So I am here on location in Marina. Marina is a seaside village that is, I don't know, maybe 25-30 minutes at most north of Split. So I was in Šibenik today. I was visiting with one of our lawyers and also sitting down and having some lunch and some cake with Lorena, who is one of our account managers. If you have contacted us about citizenship, there's a very good chance that you have spoken to her. She's one of our caseworkers. So whenever someone contacts us and they're looking for a recommendation for a lawyer, then they talk to either Lorena or Steve. Steve gets them connected, but then if they decide to do a procedure with one of our lawyers, then Lorena and Steve follow up with them periodically to make sure that they're getting everything with me. So they kind of function like caseworkers, but we call them account managers. So that's her, and we were talking about kind of some new projects to work on. We had some amazing cake. Okay, so first we had really good pastitsada, which anyone who's been watching for a while knows that pastitsada is like my favorite Croatian dish ever. It's this, it's kind of like pot roast a little bit, but it's the beef is marinated in red wine vinegar, and there's also prunes and prošek, which is a dessert wine that are like in the gravy, and it's served with gnocchi, and I really, really love it. It's my absolute favorite thing ever. So we went to a place called Buffet Shimun in Šibenik, and it was delicious, and it was a reasonable price. It was certainly cheaper than what I have for pastitsada in Split. And then we went to a cafe bar, Moderato, which I actually had coffee there with our lawyer in the morning, and then I went back with Lorena in the afternoon because they have amazing cakes. Amazing cakes. So good. We had a pistachio one that had some kind of citrus something or other goo in the middle, and then a lavender cake that had a raspberry filling and white chocolate. It was divine. Truly, truly divine. So I was driving back to Split, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna stop along the road and do 5 Question Friday somewhere else other than my office today. And so here we are. So I want to show you what I'm looking at real quick, okay? Okay? All right, hang on a second. Are they gonna let me turn it around? No, I guess not. All right, I have to take you off of, oh yes I can, there it is. All right, first time I'm doing this, guys. So this is Marina. Isn't it pretty? Isn't that lovely, guys? I mean, look at that water. Can you even believe how clear that is? It's just gorgeous. I want to jump in immediately. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So, I see Kathy joined us. Hey, Kathy. All right, so I have lots to tell you before we get into the questions today. First, I want to give a big shout out to a bunch of 5 Question Friday fans who I have met on consulting sessions recently. Lourdes, Bethany, Alice, Christy, Keith, Denise, Melissa, Jelka. Hi. Thank you so much for being big fans of 5 Question Friday. I also want to say hi to Emily and Andy. They're also Instagram fans. I did consulting session with them almost a year ago, I want to say. I met them in person just coincidentally last weekend. I was invited to a birthday party, and they were invited too, and it was like, oh my gosh, I recognize your faces. So that was really cool. I love when I get the opportunity to meet people in person, so that was pretty neat. So some exciting stuff is on the horizon. So, so tomorrow I go to Brač. Well, first in the morning I'm doing a hike up the mountain, so I'm definitely going to be sharing stuff from that. That's going to be at sunrise. In the afternoon I'm going to Brač to meet this amazing woman who apparently is the original expat in Croatia. So years ago, long before I got here, she had a very similar idea to expat in Croatia, and she didn't do anything with it. And you know, eventually, once we started doing this, she became a fan, she was following us, and then at a certain point, she contacted me and she was telling me about this, and she was like, Sarah, I finally decided to put it away because I saw that it was being done by someone properly, and I'm so glad to see it, and that just warms my heart. So we've been communicating for a couple of years, I think, and now tomorrow I'm finally get to meet her in person on Bratch. I'm so jazzed about that. Sunday is Sveti Duje here in Split, which I talk about a lot this time of year because it's my favorite day of the year for many reasons. Well, 2 reasons. So one, I love Sveti Duje. Sveti Duje is the patron saint of Split. And so for the first week of May, there's a festival celebrating him. And on the 7th, that's the culmination of the festival. So it's basically like this giant block party in Split. The entire city comes out. There are all of these stalls selling things made out of wood. They come down from Slavonia. You can buy pretty much anything made out of wood, but the thing that you're supposed to buy is a spoon. And it's unclear where this tradition originated. Even the people I know, they're like hardcore, like Split historians, don't even know where this tradition came from. But it's the thing that you are supposed to buy. And you just kind of cafe bar hop and you walk around and you run into tons of people that you know and you have a good lunch, and then at night there's fireworks. So that is what I'm going to be doing on Sunday. So if you're in Split, you must be at Sveti Duje, and if you see me, flag me down, say hi, because I am just so excited. Also, it's my Crow anniversary. So Sunday, I will be celebrating 11 years in Croatia. So it's really neat that I get to celebrate that anniversary on Split City Day. It's very cool and I love it. So I'm just super jazzed, and I can't believe I've been here 11 years and I don't remember what life was like before Croatia, and I don't think that matters. So, what else is happening? Oh, Monday I'm talking to Sovereign Man. I did an interview with Sovereign Man a couple of years ago about Croatian citizenship. So they are like a kind of like a Plan B, financial independence, I don't know what to call it, portal, something like that, membership club. Anyways, so they did an article about me a couple of years ago and Croatian citizenship, and then now they're going to be talking to me about the residence for Croatian people with Croatian heritage, member of the Croatian people, which is a residence permit that we've been talking a lot about in the last year. It's an excellent opportunity for people with Croatian heritage to come and get residence in Croatia and then apply for citizenship from Croatia, which doesn't take as long as if you were applying abroad at a consulate. It's an amazing program. So I'm going to be doing an interview with them on Monday about that, and they're going to share that with their members. And then on Wednesday, some documentary filmmakers are coming from Germany to do a documentary on me, which is rad. But they do documentaries on self-employed people, German speakers, honestly. I'm going to be the first one who's not a German speaker, but they travel all over the world seeking out these different self-employment stories. So that'll be super cool. So we're going to go all around Split to different locations to have this conversation. And I don't know what to expect from that, but it's going to be super fun. What else? Oh yeah, ACAP. So there is this organization called the Association of Croatian American Professionals. I joined their organization last year, and every year they have a conference, and usually it's always in the United States, but this year it's going to be in Zagreb in July, and I'm moderating a panel. So our team has put together a list of all these different amazing women that we want to be on this panel. And we've identified 4 of them, and I've made the proposal to ACAP, and I'm just waiting for it to be approved. But so far, the 2 people I'm working at ACAP really love our concept. So our concept is, how can we strengthen Croatia to incentivize and encourage young Croatians to stay in Croatia? So that's our theme, which I think is going to be amazing. We've picked a seasoned entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur, a woman from an established udruga, and then a lawyer from our network who has worked with thousands of Croatian diaspora to bring them back to Croatia. So it should be really exciting. I'm just on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to contact these women and say, hey, will you be on our panel? So that is also happening. What else? I made a list because I wanted to make sure that I said everything. Oh yeah. So next Friday, I will not be doing 5 Question Friday. I am taking a personal day next Friday, But if you happen to be in Split, there is going to be an art exhibition at Cafe Bar Voga. Voga is a brand new cafe bar that's on Botchvice. If you are familiar with Expat was like right on the beach of Botchvice, and it was closed because there's kind of been this mass closing of illegal properties. I guess it was illegal. So the owner of that opened up Voga, and our colleague Morella, who owns Split Nomad Gallery, she's putting on this exhibition of this wonderful photography from this lovely photographer. She actually donated some of her work to be hung in our office. So I will be rolling by there, and I highly encourage you to as well if you happen to be in Split. So if you want any information on that, feel free to DM us. We'll be happy to send it to you. So I think I've covered everything. Yeah, I think I have. So now we can dive into the questions, okay? If you're just joining us, I'm Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and I'm going to answer 5 questions from the audience that have been sent in about Croatia. So, question number 1. This comes from Pia. I think we've done one of her questions before. She sent this in on email. I've applied for my temporary resident permit, but I haven't I'm going to try that again. I've applied for my temporary residence permit, but I'm just waiting to hear back. What do I do in the meantime if I need to go to a doctor or go to the hospital? Can I still sign up for the health insurance if I'm not a resident yet? Or do I just go to the hospital and explain that I'm not a resident? Okay, so there's a couple things I want to unpack there. In most cases, when you apply for temporary residence, you have to have some kind of private health insurance for the purposes of applying for residence. And then in many cases, after you are granted temporary residence, you are required to sign up for the state health care. Now, you cannot sign up for state health care until you're a legal resident of Croatia. And by legal resident, I mean you have the residence permit card that you can take down to HZZO, the Croatian Health Fund, and sign up for health insurance. So until that point, you're on your own. So in this case, she could do a couple of different things. She could either get travel insurance, which is usually what people use to be able to have health insurance and use that insurance for the purposes of applying for residence, or she can just pay out of pocket. Now, she's already applied for residence, so my guess is she had some kind of travel insurance for urgent care anyways, because that's part of the requirements. So I want to talk about the 2 different kind of instances. So travel insurance is pretty straightforward. We do have a vetted insurance agent here in Croatia that helps our clients, predominantly digital nomads, get travel insurance. So if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to send us a DM and we'd be happy to connect you. And that's for urgent care. So usually you're going to have to pay out of pocket and then you file for some kind of reimbursement. Now, if you are paying out of pocket, so maybe you do have urgent care, but travel insurance, but you need just like a prescription, or you're sick or something. I don't know. You need an antibiotic and you need to go to the doctor. So Croatia has a decent private system as well, and it's very common for Croatians to supplement the public system with the private system anyways. So usually when you're going to go private, it's very common to go to what's called a polyclinica. So a polyclinica is usually a private practice that has multiple specialties under it. And there are small ones and there are large ones. So 2 of the largest ones are Agram and Croatia Polyclinica. And they have multiple locations across the country. Of course, they have them in Split and Zagreb, but both of them have some locations that are elsewhere. So those would be the 2 that I would recommend. So usually they always speak English. The cost is pretty reasonable. I know I'm coming from America where healthcare is an absolute dumpster fire that will ruin your life. But it is, for paying out of pocket for healthcare, it's reasonable. You know, for a family doctor visit, you'll probably pay about 50 euros. For a specialist, you're probably paying about 80 euros or something like that. And you can do higher level diagnostics and some surgeries private as well. So all of the healthcare most likely that you can need, you can go private for, and the standard of care is pretty high. And I'd also say with dental care, you know, there are some dental benefits within the state healthcare system, but most people go private for dental anyways because we have dental tourism in this country. It's a very high standard of care, very low cost. So I pay 50 euros for my teeth cleaning and the x-rays are free, and it's the nicest doctor's office I have ever seen. So if any of you need a dentist in Split, I highly recommend iSmile and Yoker. They speak English, they're fabulous. So yeah, so that's what her options are. Okay, next I want to talk about Ryan and the question he sent on email. When can EU citizens purchase agricultural land? So in Croatia, you have different zones for property, or designations maybe is the better word. And predominantly we're talking about residential and we're talking about agriculture. So when you're a foreigner, like any foreigner right now, I'm talking about this present moment, you are any kind of foreigner, you are only allowed to buy residential land. Period, the end. Only Croatian citizens and Croatian companies can purchase agricultural land. Now, there are other designations, but we're not going to talk about that today. That's getting way too in the weeds. We just want to talk about agricultural land. Now, there has been a ban on the purchase of agricultural land by EU citizens since Croatia entered the EU in 2013. That ban is up at the end of June, which means starting July 1st, EU citizens can purchase agricultural land. Now, it is incredibly unlikely that they are ever going to lift this ban for non-EU citizens. But after July 1st, EU citizens can then buy agricultural land. So that's the answer to that question. It'll be really interesting to see, how quickly that's going to happen. But let me explain why they had the ban. Because the idea behind the ban was that other EU citizens, a lot of them, have much more purchasing power than the average Croatian does. So they wanted to try and preserve this agricultural land for Croatian citizens as long as they could. There are certain things that the EU is like, well, look, this is just part of being in the EU, and that's why the ban is being lifted. But they got the ban for 10 years. It was for a shorter amount of time, and then they extended it. So thank you so much, Ryan, for that. We are working on a post right now about how to buy agricultural land in conjunction with that ban being lifted. So that post is probably going to go up in late June. So if you have any questions specifically about that, drop us a line, send us a DM. We'll be happy to answer that question as part of preparing that article. Okay, so next, this comes from Daryl over at CanCroat here on Instagram, one of our biggest fans. Did you get any of your tattoos in Croatia? Yes, I did. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 tattoos, and 4 of them I got in Split with the same guy. So there is a tattoo artist named Tiho. He used to have a tattoo salon. I don't remember what it's called. Tattoo spot called El Magico. But he left and he went to Scandinavia because you can earn way more money there. But I heard a rumor from a friend of mine that he's back, but I don't know where he is yet. But yeah, I got this one he did, these 2 he did, and then the big octopus on my back. And I have had people come up to me about my octopus and say, did Tiho do that? And I'm like, you betcha he did. Yes, he did. So yeah, I did get my tattoos here, and I want to get at least one more. I want to get one here, and I'm thinking about a new one, like maybe here. I don't know. I need to sit on that. With all of my tattoos, with the exception of one, I thought about them for years before I got them because it's kind of like a big commitment, and I want to be sure that I want it. That's just my personal thing. So I need to mull it over a little bit. But an idea I was having, just to let you know, it was on my mind today when I was driving to Šibenik. I saw the most beautiful red poppies. They were gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Just fields and fields of them, just lining the road, like the Magistrala, the coastal road, all the way up to Šibenik. And they were so gorgeous. And I was like, what if I should get red poppies? I don't know. Anyways, we're off topic of Croatia now. Thank you for letting me ramble about that. Hey, Alexis, hi. Okay, so the next question comes from Ellie. This is on our 5 Question Friday forum, which you can find at the link in our profile. You can find it in the caption. You can find it on our website. You can find it in our newsletter. You don't have to submit questions there. You can always just DM us or drop a comment, but we do tend to prioritize those. So, still waiting on my citizenship approval. My question is, once approved, then what? What are the steps? Oh, this is a great question. And I'm kind of shocked that this is the first time we've actually gotten this question. So here are the steps. So once you've been granted citizenship, they're going to give you a letter called a Yeshenye. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's literally like the bane of my existence, that word. I have a really hard time like letting that roll off my tongue. I need to practice it a lot more. But essentially it's a decision. It's a decision on your citizenship. And then you're going to get your domovnica. And then after that, you should register your foreign birth certificate. So yes, you already got like an apostille version of your birth certificate that you submitted with your citizenship, but you're not going to get that back. So you're going to need another one, and you need to register that with the registrar, Matični Ured here in Croatia. If you're not in Croatia, you can do it through your consulate. If you're married, you need to register your marriage. Again, that you'll need an apostille new copy of your marriage certificate. Oh, and they have to be officially translated. So once you register those, then you can obtain your Croatian birth certificate, because Croatian citizens are entitled to a Croatian birth certificate even if they were not born in Croatia. Oh, my pronunciation was great. Yay! Thank you, Lucia. I'm choosing to believe you. Okay, anyway, so you can get your Croatian birth certificate, and then after that you can get your passport. You can get your passport from a consulate, an embassy, or here in Croatia at MUP, at the Ministry of the Interior. And then after that you can get your osobna iskaznica, which is a national ID card. Now you can only obtain your national ID card in Croatia at a MUP office. Now all Croatian citizens are entitled to osobna iskaznica. You don't have to actually live in Croatia to have one. I usually recommend that everyone gets one even if they're not living in Croatia. So they will ask you for an address. So if you're not actually living in Croatia, you're going to give them your foreign address. So that will be your permanent address that they put on your ID. And the osobna is great for a couple of reasons. So one, if you do anything in Croatia, they're going to ask you for your osobna. So that's much easier to provide than your passport. Second, it will get you access to e-građani. E-građani is a government services portal that's pretty neat, and they've made so many improvements over the years. It's pretty awesome. So legal residents, as well as anyone who has some kind of interest in Croatia, and citizens all have access to this tool. However, there are different levels of security, and Croatian citizens have the highest level of security, and to get access to that, you need your osobna. And then the last bit is that you can travel around the European Union with your osobna instead of your passport, and that's also pretty awesome. So I highly recommend it. So those are all the things that you need to do. So if you get to that point, if you've done your citizenship on your own and you're not sure where to start, send us a DM, because we have links to guides for all of these things. How to register your marriage certificate, your birth certificate, how to get your Croatian birth certificate, how to get your passport, how to get your osobna. We have guides for all of them. So just send us a message and we will send them right over to you. Okay, is this our last question? Yes, it is. Okay, so this one comes in from Nadia, also on our 5-question Friday form. I am on a digital nomad temporary residence permit expiring mid-May. My children's family reunification permits expire in May as well. My spouse is about to get his digital nomad permit. The question is, if he is approved while we are still on our permits, can my children and I apply for temporary residence based on family reunification, or would we have to apply from outside the country at a consulate anyways? So they can absolutely apply in country. They're already here. They're already on a permit. There's no reason why they should have to leave. As long as they do it before their permit expires, then yes, they should be able to apply again. Now they're switching bases. So it sounds like first, the wife was the digital nomad and had her kids on family reunification. And most likely it sounds like her husband maybe was on a family reunification with her. So now he's the digital nomad. She's going to be on family reunification. So they're switching that basis, which is absolutely a thing that is possible and people have been doing. So yes, there's no reason why she would have to leave. It's just important you cannot have an expired permit. If you have an expired permit, then you run the risk of being kicked out. And you know, there's some stuff that's been going around on Facebook about how you can switch to a tourist stay at the end of your permit. And that's true, but there are caveats to that. Okay, one, you don't just, it's not automatic. You have to go to MUP and you have to switch to a tourist stay at the end of your permit once it expires. So that's one. Two, if you require a visa to enter Croatia, you have to have a valid visa. If you don't have a valid visa at the time that your permit expires, you got to leave. You don't even have that option. And the third thing to consider is that because Croatia's in Schengen now, if you traveled in the Schengen zone towards the end of your permit, you have to count back 180 days to see how many times you spent in Schengen outside of Croatia. Because let's say, for example, you decide you want to go to France for the last month that you have your permit in Croatia. Well, if you decide you're going to switch to a tourist visa, that's one less month you have. You have to count that in the days. So those are important things to consider. Actually, there's a fourth thing to consider. And I had this conversation with somebody this week on a consulting session. It's not that straightforward because, all right, there are people who are like, okay, I want to be on digital nomad, or I want to be on prepayment of rent. And I know I have to wait 6 months in between applications. Okay. So I have to be gone for 90 days and I can return and I can apply again. If that's the kind of track you're on, then it doesn't make sense for you to switch to a tourist stay at the end of your permit. It makes more sense that you leave and come back after 90 days because you're essentially starting from scratch. When you're waiting 6 months in between permits, you're starting from scratch, which means you need to come here, find a place to live, get everything set up, and apply for your permit. And if you stayed in Croatia for an extra 90 days as a tourist after your permit ended, you don't have any more time to be in Croatia. So you're going to have to leave for 90 days before you can come back again. And it doesn't allow you any kind of extra time. So there are a number, it's not an easy, like black and white kind of thing. And Schengen has been causing a lot of complications. And I gotta say, guys, I really want to express this vehemently because I'm getting a lot of questions about, well, I want to get a permit in Croatia, but I want to like go and travel around Schengen. How is Croatia going to know? Please don't do that. I mean, like you can, but you're taking a risk, and it's really important that you understand that you're taking a risk. If you're going into it with your eyes wide open and you're comfortable with the risk of a fine or being banned from the Schengen, if you're cool with that, be my guest. I heard of an instance last week of someone already being fined, someone already getting a 1-year ban because they violated the Schengen rules. Now, Croatia has its own rules in terms of, the fines that they implement and the bans that they implement if someone violates, if someone overstays in Croatia. But now that Croatia's in Schengen, now there are Schengen bans and Schengen fines, and they are, instead of like the hundreds of euros, they're like thousands of euros. Instead of being banned for 1 year, you could potentially be banned up to 5 years. So if you decide that you want to come to Croatia and you leave Croatia for longer than the law states and you want to go travel around Schengen thinking no one's going to find you, just be comfortable knowing the risks. Like, to me, it's like driving around Texas with a big old bag of weed. If you want to do that, cool, but you're in Texas with drugs. So if you get pulled over and arrested and charged with a felony and thrown in jail, do not be upset about it, is all I'm saying. Because there are ways, if you check into an accommodation, you're registered with the local police, Croatia can find out about it that way. If you get pulled over by the police because you're speeding or have some kind of moving violation, that's a way that they can find out. So it's just important to understand that. Sometimes I hear frustration, like at Croatia, why does Croatia want you to stay in Croatia when you have a permit? Because that's just how immigration works. Whenever you get a residence permit in most countries, they want you to actually be living in that country. So that's kind of the point of the whole thing. So, if you have questions about that, please, of course, don't hesitate to ask. But this is something that's been bubbling up, and I wanted to make sure that I addressed it with you guys so that you all understand kind of what's going on. I will probably continue to talk about Schengen more and more because it's such a running theme right now, and the government's still trying to figure it out. Tourists are still trying to figure it out. It's a lot, and actually we get a lot of people who are like, now that Croatia has entered the EU, ... And like, Croatia hasn't entered the EU just now. They entered the EU in 2013. It's that they entered the Schengen zone. So there's so much confusion out there. And I've been thinking about doing a video where I really kind of outline what the difference is between Schengen, the European Union, EGP, the Eurozone, the EEA. I feel like there's one more I might be missing. I can't think of it. But anyway, so if you want to see that, say, hey, yes, I would like to see that. And I'll get working on that. So So guys, this is it. That's all of our questions for today. I had so many updates for you, so thanks for sticking with me. So if you were not here at the very beginning, next Friday I am taking a personal day. So I will not be here for 5 questions, but I will be back the following week on the 19th. One thing I forgot to tell you. So this is episode 96. And that means that our 100th episode is coming up. And I believe I was counting the days with Danielle. I believe it's June 9th, and we have something super special planned. So please mark your calendars for our 100th episode of 5 Question Friday, which I cannot believe at all is about to happen. Ooh, it looks like we've got a last minute question. Let me go ahead and answer it. If I leave to go back to America after staying in Croatia for a month and I leave for 3 months, does the 90 days restart? No, so the 90 days, it's a rolling 90 days. So whatever day it is, you need to count 180 days back and see how many days out of 90 you have spent in the previous 180 days. So that's how you need to calculate it. If you're doing a lot of traveling, it's best that you have some kind of spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet where you're counting all of your days. I have heard this one woman who's a travel host, she's traveling constantly, and she told me that she had to start doing that because she frequently was getting stopped by Border Patrol in Europe and they were giving her a hard time, and she's like, no, these are my dates. I've kept track of all of them. So if you're doing frequent traveling, I highly recommend you do that. A couple of other pieces of advice: any day that you spend in a country, even if it's 2 hours, is considered one day. So don't go like 90 to 90 to 90, because very easily you can go over that way. I see it happen all of the time. So it's best to give yourself like a 2 or 3 day buffer to prevent any kind of issues, because it can be real expensive if you fly into a country and they're like, no, you can't be here, you know. And we've seen that happen quite a bit in Croatia, where they get turned around at the border, whether it be in an airport or driving in or whatever. So keep that in mind. Thank you so much for the last question, Pete Bella. So thank you so much for being here. I so love doing this with you every Friday. So I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Enjoy all this sun. I'm going to give you one last shot of Marina, and then we're going to go. Ooh, look at that beautiful, beautiful seawater. All right. This has been Sarah of Expat in Croatia, talking to you from Marina in sunny Dalmatia. Bye. Vidimo se. Ciao.